Hey, Wes here. Thanks for joining me today. Yesterday I made this Chaco cylinder jar, and I'm not quite done. I still have to put little loops up at the top. I'm not sure what they use those for. Too small to be handles. Maybe they used them to tie something, maybe a lid to it or something. But in any case, I need to put these little loops on, and I'm going to rivet them in. And what I mean by that, I'm going to drill holes into the side of the jar. You'll see how I do that, and embed the loops right through the jar to make it more strong. These little loops or handles can be problems. This is a little mug that I made some time ago, and the handle broke off in the firing process. One thing that can happen with these handles is that they dry faster many times or differently than the rest, and you get drying cracks right at these joints, or they're just more fragile. And so anything we can do to make this all stronger is better. And I'll show you the way I do it. There's certainly other ways to do it as well, but maybe it will be interesting and helpful. So let's get started. As I indicated, we want to have little handles or loops on the kind of, I would call it the corners, although it's round so it doesn't have corners, but opposed to each other. And I've seen them at different areas. Some of them are lower, some of them are higher, some of them loop some side to side, some up to down. And so I'm just going to make some marks about like this. All right, I've marked where I want my holes, how the little loop is going to go. I use a drill bit. I know that is not authentic. My guess is that whoever made these originally, and it was around years 1100 or so, maybe they used a stick and maybe they twisted it like this to make their hole. I like that, this as a way of getting it done. The other possibility is to just use a stick and poke a hole in it. But that seems to kind of deform things a little bit. And I like just having a clean hole. Okay, here's the inside. Bit comes through. Clean this up a little bit. Clean up the other side. Bring it through. Then I'll make my loop and have it protrude all the way through the wall of the vessel here, and that'll just make a much stronger bond. So I made my little loop and tapered the ends. I dry fit this first a little bit, but it hopefully will fit in okay, something like that. So you can see how the rivet protrudes through, and all you have to do is just smooth this out. Add some more clay if you need to. Sorry, I know my hand's in the way. And obviously this just creates so much more surface area and strength than if you applied the little loop just to the surface of the pod. Again, and then just take a scraper and scrape it. I'll smooth this up better in a little bit. So you can see I still have kind of a rough joint, and so what I do is I take a little piece of clay, I get it wet, and in fact you may want to even wet your hole and everything, depending on the consistency of your clay. You want everything to stick well. I call this a fillet, and especially if it's wet, it just kind of smooths out. Then use a tool of some kind to smooth this out as well. I have a stainless steel nail punch, again, not authentic. You could use a stick or some kind of a scraper or something to smooth everything out. And so what this does, it creates more mass, more surface area for our little loop to stick to the side of our vessel, and so it's going to give a lot more strength. Well, let's talk a little bit about these Chaco cylinder jars. This is one that I made 2 or 3 years ago, and these jars are uncommon and not completely unique, but not very typical. And they come from the Chaco Cultural National Historic Park in New Mexico. It's also a World Heritage Center. If you've never been there, it is worth the effort. It's a little bit remote and down a bumpy gravel road, but it is the site is absolutely stunning and it is unique. And these are special as well. They found them in just a couple of rooms in Pueblo Bonito, and the excavation goes back to the late 1800s. These things were made about 1,000 years ago, about 1100 AD. And we know they're special because of what they found inside of them. They found residue of cocoa in these jars. And so they know that they were used for ceremonial purposes. And the cocoa does not grow in New Mexico or in North America. It grows in Mexico, in southern Mexico. And so they would have had to transport the cocoa up. And they could tell that it was for ceremonial reasons. They also know that the room where these were housed was burned on purpose. And they can tell by the different kind of artifacts that were left behind. So how they use them in terms of ceremonially, hard to say, probably never know, but they're definitely interesting, and it's absolutely an interesting pottery form. And maybe this is a project you'd like to take on as well. There you go. All 4 of them are done. They're not identical, but they're kind of close and good enough for my purposes. Hopefully you can see how riveting in these little loops, or actually a handle on a mug or a pitcher, is going to make a stronger bond. Well, thanks for joining me today. Appreciate that. I always appreciate the comments and the thumbs up and the subscriptions, those kinds of things. It all helps the channel, and hopefully you found some of this to be useful. So until next time, this is Wes, wishing you health, happiness, peace, and love. Take care. Bye-bye.